A Quirkless Guide to Winning the UA Sports Festival. A Boku no Hero fanfiction written by Leahistyping. Chapter 3. An Unlikely Alliance. Izuku's heartbeat continued to beat rapidly in his chest as the spinner turned for the second time that day. His stomach once again churned at the thought of an unlucky pick. He had been fortunate in the first round. Who's to say what the second round would be? He tapped his foot anxiously as the seconds seemed to pass by in slow motion. Shinzo stood next to him, albeit hunched over as he continued to catch his breath. It looks like he'd have to up his training regimen in a bit. The wheel finally came to a halt, a loud buzzer echoing through the arena, announcing that the second game had been chosen. Izuku sighed at the sight in front of him. It looks like that the next event will be a cavalry battle. How enticing! Midnight called, squirming in excitement. This definitely wasn't Izuku's top pick for an event, but it was something he could work with. The rules are elementary, Midnight started. You will pair in a up in groups of 2 to 4 to form your teams. Each team will be assigned a number of points depending on how each member placed in the obstacle course. 42nd place starts with 5 points, and each status from there will gain 5 points per how high they scored in the race. First place, however, is rewarded with 10 million points. From there you will participate in a 15-minute battle with other teams as you try to steal headbands from other players. Quirks, of course, are allowed, but make a team fall deliberately and your team will be eliminated, Midnight explained excitedly as her whip continued to whirl through the air. Seriously, was that even allowed? Your 15 minutes start now. Don't waste any time, Midnight exclaimed. So, we need 2 more teammates, Shinzo observed. Have anyone in mind? I do, actually, Izuku smirked. He knew it would take a lot of convincing, but if feasible plans started to form in his mind, he couldn't resist. The 2 people he had in mind had a high likelihood of choosing other groups, so he had to be quick about it. One wrong teammate could be a do or die in this type of scenario. Izuku, like a man on a mission, started striding over to his first pick, as Shinzo followed closely behind. Hey, copy dude! Izuku called, walking up to a blonde head of hairs. You mean me? I'm afraid I haven't seen you 2 before. General studies, I presume? The blonde asked, amused. You're correct, Izuku replied with a smile, and I was wondering if you'd like to team up with us. I'm terribly sorry, you 2, but I'm afraid that I have a group in mind already. With my own class and all, he responded with a sort of sass that made Izuku want to befriend him. Not the time, Izuku. Damn it! Listen, Monoma, right? Izuku said. I know that what your goal is here. You want to prove that your class is better than Class A's, right? I get that, truly. Shinzo here has been trying to fight for the hero course since this tournament started. But you need strategy if you want to pull that off. Monoma scoffed. I have strategy. Running around aimlessly while pissing off 1A and the process is a plan, not a strategy, Izuku corrected. Join me and Shinzo and I can almost guarantee a victory. We'll only target 1A go for the 10 million and that'll give your class a higher chance. We can take 1A down together. Monoma was silent for a moment, most likely contemplating the argument. Though Monoma wasn't essential for the plan, having someone with a drive and desire to win as strong as his would be incredibly beneficial. And don't even forget about his quirk. It was totally overpowered, and having two Shinzos on his team would give them a strong advantage. And what if you will you do if we don't make it to the next round, Monoma asked. I can't rely on confidence alone. I need at least something to benefit me if you can't keep your word. Izuku was smart. Izuku liked it. He was smart. Izuku liked it. I'll give you a full quirk and fighting analysis if we lose. It would be incredibly helpful towards your future training, Izuku suggested. Shinzo in turn scoffed. Psh, you'd! He was elbowed in the gut by Izuku before he could finish his sentence. He couldn't have Shinzo expose him like that. If Izuku was honest, he'd give anybody an analysis if they asked him to, but they didn't technically know that. So do we have a deal? Izuku asked. You know what, General Boys? I'll entertain you and join your team. Monoma replied, a menacing grin plastered on his face. Let's end 1A in all their glory! Izuku sighed in relief. Great, one down and one more to go. As Izuku started to head towards his next target, Monoma apologized to his former teammates as he trailed behind Izuku and Shinzo. So what's the strategy, Midoriya? Once we get our final team mailed, I'll tell you, Izuku answered calmly. Please don't be taken, please don't be taken. Thank God! The trio approached the student Izuku was looking for, as the person in question idly looked through a case of equipment next to them. This was going to be good. Hey, Gadget Girl! Do you have a team yet? Izuku called, cheerfully, a smile forming on his face as he noticed the vast array of support items resting in her briefcase. He needed to collaborate with her sometime. Oh, hey again! No, not yet. I tried to go with 10 million, dude, but he rejected me and my babies. So I decided to wait and see which potential teams I could join. No one really else piqued my interest. The pink-haired girl replied, looking up from her briefcase full of mysteries. That's perfect then. Wanna join our team? I have a solid plan that'll get us to 10 million points. You in? Izuku asked. 10 million, you say? She questioned, her fingers situated on her chin in a thought. Why not? I'm in! The trio cheered in unison as Izuku let out a breath of satisfaction. Things are going relatively according to plan. No. Now, are we allowed to use your babies? I thought you'd never ask! The pink-haired girl exclaimed. Can you explain your plan now, Midoriya? Monoma asked, more exasperated than the previous attempt. You said you had one, and it's starting to feel like as though you're bluffing. With 5 minutes left on the countdown, Izuku had successfully gathered his team and distributed Hatsume's babies accordingly. Monoma and Hatsume were situated on the back, with jetpacks created by the inventor herself. Shinzo, who was the front man, claimed a pair of rocket-type boots, leaving Izuku as the rider with a support item Hatsume used during the obstacle course. Additionally, they each got some form of capture weapon to use in an emergency, though Izuku deemed it wouldn't be necessary, as the four of them patiently waited for the game to start. Izuku took a deep breath. Obviously I have a plan, Monoma. I just wanted to get everyone situated first, but now that it's out of the way, let's get down to business, Izuku replied, watching with the interest in his three teammates peak. The group huddled around, anxiously waiting for the green-haired boy to explain his plan that was apparently foolproof. The plan is pretty simple, but many are going to see us as low stoopers. Are you all okay with that? Izuku asked. As long as we make it to the next round, I don't really care how we get there, Shinzo said, which was then followed by the entire group nodding along. Okay, so what do we know about our team? Izuku questioned. He didn't want to do all the work. Come on now. We barely know each other, Shinzo stated, which earned a cackle from the blonde. He's not wrong, you know. I haven't heard of any of you before today, Monoma added with a chuckle. Oh, I know! Hatsume said enthusiastically, raising her hands. What is it? We all scored middle to low in the obstacle race, barely making us targetable. Almost everyone will be gunning for the 10 million, Hatsume suggested, her eyes lighting up at the realization. Exactly that, Hatsume. Monoma, I doubt your class will target us because you're on our team, leaving us only against Class A. But I'm sure they'll all be too busy fighting against Class B or the 10 million to even notice us. We're practically invisible, Izuku elaborated, Hatsume's initial point. Shinzo and Monoma's eyes slowly started to light up with excitement as he rambled on, explaining the benefits of staying in the shadows. Now as for the actual plan. Alright, competitors, your 15 minutes are up. Everyone gather onto the field so we can begin shortly. Midnight cheered, an enthusiastic smile overtaking her face. As the students entered the gravel-like field, Midnight went over the rules again. Now remember, quirks are allowed, but I better not see any of you children behave badly and purposely make your opponents fall. Monoma, you did what I asked, right? Izuku turned to face the blonde who was adjusting the strap on his jetpack. Of course I did. It was the brunette with pink cheeks, right? Monoma classified, looking to meet Izuku's gate. Yeah, that's her, Izuku confirmed. What did you want with her quirk anyway? The blonde asked as they slowly put themselves into position for the battle. Well, her quirk is zero gravity, so instead of having the jetpacks and boots all carry of our weight, we can use her power to lower the burden. You mentioned how your quirk only lasts for 5 minutes, but the things you can change with said power stays permanent, essentially making us weightless forever. You'll be the only one who doesn't go under the effect of the quirk, and at the end of the battle, you'll have to touch her again to release us. Does that make sense? Izuku explained his signature style. It's a wonder they agreed to team with him in the first place. You never fail to amaze me, Midoriya. Shinzo laughed, partly because of the analysis and partly because of the look on Monoma's face. He's always like that? Monoma asked, still moderately stunned. Oh yeah, big time. Class will be boring without him once I transfer to the hero course, Shinzo answered confidently, resulting in a minuscule blush from Izuku. As much as I'd love to continue this conversation, quit your chatting and focus on the event that's about to begin, Hatsume declared, enthusiastically as ever. All right. Okay, Monoma, activate the quirk, Izuku said, straightening up to prepare for the battle. Shinzo, ready? Izuku called, yeah. Monoma, of course. Hatsume, let's do this thing. Okay, let's go. The horn signaling the next event blew a moment later, and in a blast they were off. Graveled dust filled the arena atmosphere as 12 different teams scrambled in an attempt to collect points. The roar of the crowd echoed through the stadium as nearly every team charged towards the 10 million points. So predictable, Izuku grimaced. As soon as he thought it, a large sprawl of ice filled half the field. immobilizing at least half of the teams that were headed towards the 10 million. That ice quirk was incredible. He could give them as much. Izuku's team rounded the border, opting to play defense in the early stages of battle. Sequentially, their plan wouldn't commence until the final minutes of the match. As Izuku predicted, not many teams were after their 230 combined points. Izuku suspected that they wouldn't truly be a target until the clock was low, as many teams would be in a state of desperation to push forward. Unfortunately for them, he'd be unreachable at that point. Are you sure about this, Midoriya? This plan is undeniably risky, and I hate to be the guy, but relying on one final move to push us forward is a bit of a long shot. Izuku said, eyes not wavering from where he was currently looking forward. One distraction and they'd be out of the run, for sure. I know how risky it sounds, guys, but trust me, put as much faith into me as that I have in you. We're going to pull this off, Izuku replied with pure confidence. Was he mildly bluffing? A little. The plan of his was as risky as it came, and it's a miracle they even agreed to it, but he was sure that the move would change the course of the event. After all, he's always wanted to bungee jump. As the timer slowly ticked down, Izuku felt more and more anxious. This plan was relying solely on his ability and his team's timing, and it needed to be flawless for it to be successful. Damn, he really probably should have created something easier for these guys. Predictably, not many teams attempted to charge Izuku's team, well, all except for Team Tetsu Tetsu, though Izuku believed that the boy marched to the beat of his own drum. Luckily, all it took was Monoma to call out the team with Shinso's quirk on hand, and they were out of the running at least for a while. Cold move, dude, Shinso said to the blonde as they ran away from the puzzled team who was frozen in place. That man never sticks to our class's plan. He's lucky that he has Kendo in his corner, or else I would have been way harsher, Monoma replied, sounding just as exhausted as Eraserhead did on their nightly patrols. Izuku almost giggled at the comparison. Across the field, Izuku noticed two teams in the midst of a standoff, Team Todoroki and Team Bakugo. Team Todoroki consisted of the ice guy from earlier, which he presumed to be Todoroki. Wow, Endeavor's kid? An engine guy, an electric boy, and a girl who had a quirk that created things. Izuku remembered seeing them participate in the obstacle race, and just by watching them compete, he knew their team was stacked. On the other hand, Team Bakugo consisted of Kachan, whose power was explosions, a quirk Izuku knew all too well. Amongst his team was a pink-haired girl who spewed acid, the hardening redhead whom had a similar quirk to the metal guy, and the boy who had tape elbows. Another fairly stacked team. The hero course was undoubtedly something else. This, of course, was another thing Izuku was relying on. He knew how competitive Kachan was, so it was no doubt that the blonde would go after the 10 million, leaving all the other teams in his dust, literally. As for the other teams, they all seemed to be fighting each other, or still attempting, though futile, to reach the top two teams. Uh-oh! Looks like Team Bakugo and Team Todoroki are still in a standoff, with only 3 minutes left on the clock. These two have been fighting since the battle has begun, but neither have pulled ahead without the other one countering. Meanwhile, it seems like all the other teams are just scrambling to get enough points to move on. President Mike's voice filled the speakers, once again, almost giving Izuku whiplash. It had been a while since he heard his teacher speak, though he assumed it was the result of him tuning out almost all the noise so as he continuously studied the scene before him. If there was one word Izuku could use to describe what he was looking at, it would have to be mayhem. On the opposite side of the field, Todoroki and Kacham stood in a tense impasse. Todoroki's team playing strong defense, while Kachan struggled to blast them to hell, too tied back by his teammates. It was only a matter of time until he rushed him. That boy was far from patient. Around them there were large spikes of ice, almost secluding them from the rest of the teams. Izuku was only able to see because of the angle they were on. Half of the teams were stuck in ice patches on the ground, many of their quirks useless in getting them out of the frozen ground. The remaining survivors who didn't get caught in the attack, who were successful in escaping, were basically busy facing each other. Class 1B keeping Class 1A too busy to attack the observing team. Glancing up at the scoreboard, Izuku noticed that his team was ninfed, most likely due to the scattered points of the other teams. All they needed was a bit more time. If they could just stall for the 20-second marks, could they do it? 1 minute, anyone! Are the standings settled, or will there be any last-minute changes? Right now, everyone is fighting to make a difference, but only 4 teams will move to the next round. President Mike's voice rang through the microphone once again, and in a way, the familiarity of his teacher's voice calmed in. Okay, guys, 1 minute left. It'll take approximately 30 seconds to fly overhead, and by then it's just a chance that my predictions comes ahead. Let's make it count, alright? Izuku called to his team, signaling them to turn on the jetpacks. In one motion they took to the sky, making it impossible for almost anybody to reach them. They inched their way over, Izuku not keeping his eyes off the stalemate. The timing has to be perfect. I think it may be a bad time to mention that I'm scared of heights, Shinzo said, voice wavering slightly. It'll be over before you know it, brainwash dude, Hatsume reassured, taking over the comfortable role Izuku often filled, as he was much too busy preparing for the trial ahead. I just want to say thank you, guys, for not only being so cooperative, but for putting your faith in me. It's been fun, and when it's over, I'll thank you all again, regardless of the outcome, Izuku said as they made their way towards Todoroki and Bakugo. A sappy one, aren't you, Midoriya? Save it for after we kick Class 1A's ass, Monoma replied lightheartedly. Never thought I'd agree with this blonde idiot, but here we are. Keep the sap until after we're declared badasses, Shinzo chimed in right after. Hey! Midoriya, we are so collaborating after this, Hatsume cheered, a wide grin taking up the expanse of her face. All Izuku could do was laugh, he was so fortunate to be blessed with such good friends. Or, well, acquaintance. With 30 seconds remaining, President Mike screamed again. 30 more seconds until the second event is over. Many teams have changed in the rankings of the final minute. And look, Team Midoriya is flying in the air. I wonder what they're up to. If I had to say, I'd say it's to stay out of trouble in the final moments. But their team has barely gotten any points the entire round. They didn't even face any teams without running away. Only time will tell what they're up to, Eraserhead commented, and Izuku let out a snort. At least the man had some faith in him. Hatsume, use your quirk to zoom in on the 2 teams. When you see Kachan or Todoroki start to change, tell me immediately, okay? Izuku announced, feeling nauseous. This was a total gamble, one he wasn't even fully confident in. He was relying on Kachan of all people, but if there was one thing the blonde did, it was never disappoint. 20 seconds. Ah! No, Midoriya! No! They're advancing! Hatsume reported, letting Izuku know his time had come. And without hesitation, Izuku jumped from his team as if he was going to dive in a pool. The wind blowing against his face was exhilarating, and he expertly lined himself up to complete the final move he had been picturing in his head for the past 15 minutes. There were so many reasons as to why he did it so fearlessly. His vigilante career was definitely a leading cause, his sense of fear growing higher in standards after facing terrifying foes. It could have been his lack of concern for his own life that drove him to make such reckless decisions. As well though, but those issues, they were for another time. Time flew by in what felt like slow motion, but before he knew it, he was right in between the two leading teams on the leaderboard, albeit upside down. Both were too busy focusing on grabbing the other's headbands to notice Izuku's appearing out of thin air, and after his final breath, he snatched both headbands off their heads. Immediately after, he pressed his bracelet, activating Hatsume's road support item, effectively shooting himself back up into the sky towards his awaiting team. He flew back up at a rapid pace, but was able to safely make it onto their backs. Holy shit! Shinzo uttered, and yeah, Izuku could agree with that. Fly away before they catch on! There's still 10 seconds left in the clock! Izuku ordered, still shell-shocked that he pulled off such a complex move. Their team flew back towards the ground in the opposite direction he was of the definitely angry top two teams. Quickly, and Izuku took a second to look down at the headbands, and in a glorious shade of red the numbers 10,205,000 were stitched onto them. He did it! He threw them around his neck and successfully hiding the numbers from an outsider's view, and finally let himself breathe again after the fall. Holy crap! Would you look at that? In one final move, as if they were expecting it, Team Midoriya just snatched 2 headbands off the leading teams. What a twist! Present Mike cheered, and Izuku was ecstatic to hear he made his teacher proud. The guts this kid has. Another voice, much rougher than the previous Eraserhead, said. Izuku could feel his heart swelling. Compliments from his teacher and his mentor. After landing on the ground, Izuku heard the familiar sound of explosions charging at him from behind. Deku! You sneaky bastard! Give me the points back or I'll murder you myself! Katsuki roared, his entire face bright red from pure anger. The buzzer rang before the blonde could jump off his team and steal the headbands, signifying the end of the game. It was over! Better luck next time, Kachan? Izuku grimaced, hand scratching the back of his head. He was definitely going to die later. Tuning out Kachan's meltdown akin to an upset toddler, Izuku directed his gaze towards the leaderboards. With our second event coming to an end, let's check out the leader scores. First place, Team Midoriya, 10,435,000 points. Second place, Team Bakugo with 485 points. Third place, Team Todoroki with 440 points. And fourth place, Team Kendo with 415 points. Congratulations to the winning team! Those who succeed will move to the the finals with our 1v1 tournament. Please take this time for a lunch break to refuel your bodies as you have a grueling afternoon ahead of you, Midnight announced. Yeah, Izuku could really go for food right about now. Good job, guys! I can't believe it! We pulled it off! Izuku said to his team, a blinding smile growing on his face. You were amazing out there! Hatsume cheered, extending her hand to high-five Izuku. He complied, their hands meeting with a swift clap. Midoriya, are we going to talk about how easily you dived face first into the ground like it was something you did any other day? Shinzo asked, gaining a nod from the other two. About that? Midoriya. Izuku turned towards the unfamiliar yet calm voice who called him from a few meters away. His eyes widened when he noticed who it was. We need to talk. Holy moly, well, what a twist. I really, if I'm honest, I've been reading so many fan fictions that I forgot about this scene, but I know it was in one of my favorite fics and it's so awesome. I loved it. He just went all Assassin's Creed. Oh, our little badass green bean. And for now, I'm gonna most likely take a break. My voice is fucked. Anyway, have a nice day, everyone, no matter what time. And I know I don't do it myself a lot, but don't forget to hydrate. Or, sorry, or Red Overlord and Eleanor will come for your ankles.